Designers and Builders, where design meets construction. We explore groundbreaking trends and talk to the pros reshaping our spaces. For your dream home, workspace, or just great design inspiration, subscribe to Designers and Builders.
Hello, and welcome to today's brand new episode of Designers and Builders. I'm your host, Alyssa Olson, and today I'd like to welcome Evan Goldenberg. He's the architect owner of Design Build Consultants Incorporated, which is a full-service architectural design and construction management company, and he has over 30 years of experience with that. How are you doing today, Evan?
I'm great. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. It's been lovely chatting with you, getting to know more about all the things you do. So let's kick this episode off with your backstory, what led you into architecture, and then tell us how that progressed into your wine cellar and more designs.
I guess it all started when I decided that French wasn't going to be my forte in high school and decided to switch out and take mechanical drawing and architectural drawing so that I could get a sequence for a New York State Regents diploma, which is what my goal was when I graduated high school. And after 3 years of mechanical drawing and architecture, I already knew where I was headed. And, although I had a teacher who would never give out a grade higher than 99, I sat for the New York State Mechanical Drawing Regents and got 100 on it.
Wow. Nice.
He pulled me into his class and he's like, "How did you do that? I never taught you how to do that." And I said, "You didn't have to teach me how to do it. They're fundamentals."
There you go. You already had it.
And I, looked at colleges and they found New York Institute of Technology in Old Westbury. And I knew I was going to be there for 5 years. That was the deal. And they said it was the right school for me, based on the portfolio that I had. Unfortunately, I didn't do a lot of artistic work to really reveal that side of me. And, I had more mechanical vision in my mind. So for, New York Tech was the right school. We used to call it the school of nuts and bolts. But
Nice.
you really learned how to put things together. You had to design things, from scratch. And I do have a 5-year design degree, but it's a process, and that's what everybody does. They go to school and they learn a process, and you don't learn really anything outside of that until you actually work. That's the way it goes, And so, I got a bunch of different jobs. I worked for Southland Corporation, doing drawings of 7-Eleven stores when I was in high school. While I was in high school, I got a job working for a commercial hot roofing company. There I was with 400-degree hot tar on roofs and learning how to install parapet flashing and counter flashing and copper scuppers with the tin knocker and laying down, rigid insulation so that it pitches to the drain. These are things that, you can draw them, but when you actually hold it in your hand and you see it, then you really get it. After that, I, again, couldn't get a job at an architectural firm and was able to get a job working for a mechanical engineering firm. And after I filled the boss's car on even days and did all the blueprints and got lunches for everybody, I asked if I could go on the boards and do red lines. And, the owner of the company looked at me and said, "How do you know what a red line is? You're in high school." And I said, "Oh, I do them already." He goes, "All right, come upstairs. Let's ask one of the engineers. We'll set you up on a table." And they set me up on a table and they threw me a bunch of drawings and they handed me a bunch of colored pencils. And this is way back when we were still using E-lead on Mylar and, with pin bars, and started drawing ductwork and started asking a lot of questions about why the ductwork changes size, why the airflow changes in it, and how to calculate it. And I was stubborn. I kept asking. I wanted to know. And the engineers actually showed me how to do it. And again, this is something that most architects never do. But I was beginning to understand airflow through ductwork and static pressure and the kind of noise that it leads to when it comes out of it. There's a distributor right up behind my shoulder there. And so, it worked out really well. And I thought I would never use it in my life until 1993, after I had worked for a commercial architectural firm for 10 months and couldn't handle dealing with having to crank out 2 sets of vanilla box doors every week. Went out on my own, 1993, and my brother-in-law asked me to design and build a basement project for him, and he wanted a wine cellar. And I looked at him and I said, "Michael, what's a wine cellar?" And he's like, "All right, Ev, I'll explain to you the purpose of it, but you're going to have to figure out the how. You're an architect, you're smart, you'll figure it out. And, I thought I knew what I was doing. I built him, he was a guinea pig and he knew it, built the wine cellar and it failed in 3 months.
Brutal.
Not only did it fail, but the next year I built wine cellars for other clients and they all failed.
Oh,
That's okay.
it's okay.
It's a valuable learning curve. So I actually went back to each one of those clients, told them I made a mistake, honored my passion for who I am and what I deliver, and tore each one apart and rebuilt each one, didn't charge them a penny. And from those jobs, all of a sudden it was like a pyramid. The calls didn't stop coming in because there was
Yeah,
actually somebody out there that knew how to build wine cellars. He stands by his product. He's a nice guy. He doesn't rip anybody off and he delivers, It doesn't run
absolutely.
away when there's a problem like most builders do.
Yes.
I decided I wanted to be a design builder and I wasn't happy just doing drawings and letting somebody else build the end product. I really wanted to be the one, to actually control all the subs and the delivery and the end result. And so, I'm pretty picky, pretty particular.
Mhm.
I try to make things as perfect as I can, although perfection doesn't exist. But I think my clients appreciate it.
For sure. And especially at that scale and the level of detail required and have all the technicals of all those systems, like you got to get it right, right? Or
Well,
else,
there's plenty that don't work right. I think a lot of people just, after a while, they stop complaining about it. My clients don't have that issue. I guarantee them that when they turn that light switch on and turn the, refrigeration system on, that room's going to be 55 degrees. And wherever I tell them the percent humidity is going to be. And sure enough, it is. And, stay on top of them to keep them, to maintain them. But
Mhm.
the whole purpose, of those rooms is for long-term storage, long-term aging of a lot of the collectible wines, which is what they buy.
Yeah, for sure. And is there also a mix of kind of like capacity versus display? And
It
like,
depends. Some clients want pure utility and don't really care about the aesthetic. Other clients want a little bit of both, and every once in a while somebody just wants all flash. I do very few of those, but I think I try to, you know, push people in the direction of you could make it look pretty, but it should have some utility, depending upon, what you're going to put in that room. Otherwise, you need the organization just to find, the wines that you own. And so some of my clients pretty much walk in the room and they know exactly where the bottle is. Other clients rely on spreadsheets and software to help them find the bottles that they lost in the back of other bottles.
okay, guess it depends on the scale of their passion for
It,
wine.
yes. And some clients, it's a small 1,000 bottle closet, and other clients, I have 12,000 bottle rooms.
Oh, okay. All those are much larger than my collection. So,
They're probably bigger than your house.
and so then
But
you also do humidors, fur storage. What else? What else are you into?
Well, for me, I got into cigars very early, during the craze in the early 90s. And not only was I just into cigars, I was into specifically Cuban cigars. And so I was able to get them. And it was even more important to make sure that those cigars were maintained properly at the right humidity so that they can live. And because
Mhm.
once a tobacco leaf dries out, the essential oil that's in it, that's where all the flavor is. And it turns into paper. That's what happens. So if you maintain, 70% relative humidity in a cigar and a certain temperature range, they'll age 10, 20, 30 years. I have cigars downstairs that are 30 years old.
Good to know. Next time I have some Cubans on hand.
You can't get them in the United States right now.
Right
They're
now.
real hard. They're very difficult. They all get confiscated. Yeah.
Very cool. But then you also do full scale home construction, right? Construction management.
I do, right. I have clients that they'll hand me the keys to the house and they just say, do what you got to do. And I'll completely gut renovate the house, strip out everything, leave the bones, and then update the house to current, standards of whatever that state is, closed cell, open cell, spray foam, water barriers that cover the entire roof, not just up the valleys and on the bottom edges, new roofing materials, new siding, a lot of PVC, new windows, new HVAC, new mechanical systems, new plumbing. We do, if I'm going to touch it, I want to make sure they walk into a brand new house. That's really what it is.
For
You
sure.
can, it's a big undertaking, but it's doable in 9 months. Can't do it in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's for sure. Currently, my dad's helping me work on my house. All of those same things.
Yeah.
It's definitely longer than 9 months, but it's like I feel like there's a trickle effect. Like once you start on one thing, you might as well keep doing the next thing and make the whole
Yes.
system correct.
Yes, because you're going to end up with a situation down the road where the wires don't work, or they're not running the right direction, or there could be a fire inside the wall. You don't need that. If
Yeah,
the walls are open, get rid of the wiring and update it all.
yeah. Miles of wiring has been ripped out.
Yeah, it's a lot of copper you can take to the recycling center and get money for.
That's true. After you burn in a bonfire and enjoy the beautiful colors, right?
No, I don't do that.
Oh,
We strip it and recycle it. That's what we do.
all
A
right.
lot of work.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so in terms of your clients, how do you typically get them? Is it repeats, referrals?
Yeah, most of my clients these days are through word of mouth, and mostly repeat clients. Where I might have done a wine cellar for them, way back in 1995. And now I'm still the property manager at the home. And so every time, there's a new bathroom or a bathroom that needs to be renovated, I just get a text message. Yeah, we're doing the kids' bathroom. Okay.
Nice.
And then I actually will go in, do the set of drawings. I'll actually go pick out the materials, drop them off for them to look at, approve. And then I order everything, coordinate everything, and build it out and make it, build custom cabinet work. I don't buy any products that are pre-manufactured. I custom make everything.
Yeah, that's great though. I mean, I feel like a lot of products that I've been seeing lately are just cheaply built. They don't last. You can't repair them, like all the MDF stuff.
That's
It's,
right.
it's just more,
Once moisture hits those, they're done.
yeah,
So mine are all made out of, they're all maple.
incredible. Oh, all my wood guys would love to hear that.
Although we just did I did my kid's house, and it's all rift cut white oak, 5/4 face frames.
Beautiful. That will last.
That's solid. It's solid.
Oh, incredible. So then, do you have a crew of craftspeople that you typically go to?
I do. So I work with about 50 different subs. Pick and choose who I want to use for each project, depending upon which region the project is located in. Sometimes I don't have a carpenter for a project in a particular region, and I'll beg one of my carpenters to charge me a little more for commute and do what I need him to do out on a job to interface, whether it's framing or even finish cabinet work. I drag carpenters from as far as, I guess they're about 100 miles away, and I'll send them to projects in Boston, and I'll send them to the end of Long Island, but they'll go for me because they know it's a beautiful job. I call it gentleman's carpentry, but it still requires somebody with finesse. So this particular crew, he's actually a cabinet maker and a finish carpenter.
Oh,
Right.
nice.
So my pieces fit when you go to put them together, and there's a lot of biscuit joinery, and everything's calculated out, and the details. I don't like moldings to protrude out beyond the face of my cabinet work. I like it all flush.
Yeah,
Little teeny details that make my projects different than everybody else's.
exactly. But they matter so much. Like I feel like that's the thing is once you have someone you trust who can do those things, you don't have to worry about it. But there's a little bit of like a magician's secret in that, right? Like those things when they don't align, that's the only thing you can focus on.
Well, there's nothing better than having the actual cabinet makers themselves that build the cabinets do the install. It goes like lightning when they do it. It saves days of phone calls and questions and Zoom calls and sketches and things. But it all gets done. Typically, I even remember I would go out on a job when we would start to put a wine cellar together, and most of my guys, they barely knew. They were just taking pieces of partially built sections out of cardboard boxes, and I would say that one goes there, that one goes there, this goes there, this goes there. And they'd look at me and they go, "How do you know that?" I go, "I designed it. I know which piece goes where." And it would save days just having me stand there for a day.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're the resource and you have that knowledge.
I'm also a finish carpenter. That's why this thumb looks like this.
At
I
least
had
you
it
still
sitting here.
know that.
I know how to swing a hammer.
That's
Been there,
awesome.
done it. So, it was, I knew that if I could do it myself, then I could at least direct people, properly.
Yeah. And where did that passion for building things come from?
Well, it kind of runs in my family, although my brother didn't get it and my dad didn't have it so well. I had an uncle who was a Renaissance man
Okay.
who could do anything. So not only was he a master degree educator, he taught high school science, but he was an accomplished cabinet maker, and he wouldn't let Fine Woodworking magazine publish any of his pieces because he didn't want anybody to copy them. He knew how to rebuild engines. He knew how to use metal cutting tools, lathes, wood, metal. He cut glass. He matched Steuben pieces. Did acid and copper wheel. He was an accomplished photographer. He was a cinematographer. He worked for ABC News and he was the technical lighting director of ABC Television. He was a great resource. If you had a question, you could pick up the phone and call Uncle Morty and be prepared for about an hour of dissertation.
And you love that though, those like informal mentorships, and they're just the person you call and they kind of
And,
know it all.
yeah, and I would hang out with him and do little projects, and he would teach me how to use the tools.
Yeah.
And and I understood, you know, why he was doing why he did it, and he was a real cabinet maker because he never used any metal fasteners in any of his cabinet work. It was just joints and glue. That's it.
Old
Yeah.
school, but tried and true.
Old school, and it lasts. This stuff will be around forever. These kids are going to have it forever.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like that's something that we could incorporate more, which you actively are with your cabinets, which is
No,
really
yeah.
appreciated, you know?
My little wine cellars, I call them functional works of art.
Ah, okay.
Each one is unique, little jewel,
Mhm.
and yet they provide a function, and they work, and they're pleasing to look at. They're fun to go into.
Yeah. So you were saying earlier, sometimes when you kind of start off talking with clients, the vision will just kind of come out naturally in the conversation.
Right. And so I am the son of a super salesman. My dad grew up, didn't make it in college, and ended up becoming a textile salesman, ladies and men's shoe salesman. And in his last career, he owned a monument store. He sold tombstones. That was the family business, Goldenberg Monuments.
Okay.
And my dad was artistic, but he knew how to connect with people. He had friends everywhere. And I used to hang out with him when he would go on his sales trips on weekends. And there was always a big sale. There was always a meal afterwards. There was always a hug or a handshake, or it was a lot different, and there was always a callback. And it was a friendship that, was very deep. And I sort of watched him do this and never realized that this is a form of selling. Not everybody can do it that way. And I sort of emulate the way he sells. And so naturally, I start talking to my clients and they really tell me what they want without realizing it. And that's how I'm able to design a wine cellar for a client that is exactly what they want.
That's incredible. That's such a in, important skill, especially as a designer. And that was something that kind of made me chuckle reading your intake form. Is one of the things you mentioned that is not explicitly taught in architecture school is selling yourself, being a
Right.
real person, which honestly, when I read that, I was like, oh, okay, this guy's a real person, like we can just be ourselves.
My people that meet me realize pretty quick that I'm not just full of hot air, that I actually have real information to give. And I like to help people. That's really what it is. I mean, that's really that's what architects do. We help people live better. And obviously we have guidelines and we, uphold a certain, role. And if my client's not happy, I'm not happy. It's very simple. I tend to be more of a rational architect. I don't like to create, whimsical things that don't really work or make sense. But I think my clients appreciate what I do for them and how much effort I put into it. That's really what it is. That's why they keep calling over and over again. Most of my clients hire me at least 2 to 3 times. And every once in a while, they keep calling forever. I have one client, we're going on 15 years.
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
really good run.
it is. And I spoil them and they spoil me back. So, it's touche. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm family. And now the kids are getting married and buying houses, and I'm getting all those projects too.
Yeah, it just multiplies. You need to like
It's cool.
call
Yeah, they'll take care of it. And I treat them like my kids.
I'm sure.
I
Yeah.
I take good care of them, and I sort of watch over them like they're my own, and they know it. It's a comfort level that it's not, it takes years to build that, but when people know that you're genuine, they feel it pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about people, right? Like
Mhm.
you're building your portfolio, but you're also ultimately building a big family and network and
Exactly.
community.
Yeah, I never in a million years did I ever think I would reach 760 something clients.
Almost gonna top out in the four figures before you
Uh,
know
I'll keep going until they keep calling. That's the problem. They
it.
never stop calling me.
They will keep calling.
It's fun.
So, out of the range of your work, what would you say excites you the most?
For me, designing a wine cellar is exciting. That's fun. Or, give me a impossible room. That's a horrible challenge. And I'll dig through it like it's a toy. I'll
Nice.
solve I can solve any space issue that there is. And I know when to do something one way and not another way, or when it's going to become an issue and later on down the road. And we'll just completely. I've told clients, I've met them and said, "You, I'm not doing a project for you," and they go, "Why?" I said, "There's asbestos pipes in the way. Number one, covered pipes." I go, "You're going to be left with a wine cellar that you're going to have to duck up and down walking into. You're not going to be happy walking in this room. So forget it. I don't want the job. Find me another space in your house." And he
Uh-huh.
took me to another space in his house, and it was an extra garage that he had attached to the house. And I said, "Well, take one of your other garages on the property that you have and keep this one here and we'll build it into a wine cellar." And he said, "No, I can't do that." And a year later, he called me up and he said, "Hey, Ev, you still doing wine cellars? Come on over and do that garage. I have too much wine."
Okay.
He was, and that was the CEO of a major investment banking company. I'll be
Okay.
nice and not give me his name, but you know who he is.
Well, because location's critical, right? Like the perfect environment.
The space has to work. It has to be convenient to get to, easy to fill. My wine cellar's tucked away all the way in the back corner of my basement. Let me tell you, it's a pain bringing bottles into it. It's much easier when it's closer, to where you come in the garage or something. But sometimes that has to be the kids' playrooms.
I guess those programs don't mix that well, right?
You know what? Kids rule. I make sure they're happy. Otherwise the wife and the moms aren't happy. So,
That's true.
so I do a lot of basements too. A lot of basement designs for clients. We do bars, custom cabinet work,
Oh,
custom
nice.
storage, custom everything.
That's awesome.
And I like to incorporate the refrigeration or air conditioning systems into every project. It's not just sticking on the wall. Let's see what it looks like. Sometimes it's a little bit more than that. So,
Yeah,
before somebody wants to go with how much money they want to spend.
that's true. But I also feel like when you integrate all those highly technical things, ultimately you get a much better design outcome and
Yeah.
space and experience in your everyday life, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I like my basement projects to actually look like the first and second floor of the house. If
Yeah,
it looks like a basement, then that's not my take on it. It's got to be a fun space.
that's true. Well,
Because
my
teenagers are going to spend a lot of time down there.
that's true. It's their sanctuary space, right? That's
It
where
is.
you. That's where you go. Yeah. So I guess is there of the projects you've worked on, has there been one that's been most impactful for you?
Well, impactful. So I have one client who asked me to build him a wine cellar many years ago. His architect gave him my name, and he was very friendly. We started on a beautiful design of a project for him, only to find out about a month into the project that he wasn't going to go through with it because the town wouldn't let him have a tennis court on the property. It wasn't quite big enough, and there was zoning involved. And so he decided, he called me up and he said, "Ev, got good news and bad news." So the bad news is we have to abandon the project. And I know you're like almost done with the design of this wine cellar. And I said, all right, tell me the good news now. He goes, well, I found another piece of property and I'll have preliminary drawings for you next week. And I looked over to one of my guys in the office and I said, stop working on that job.
Yeah.
We're going to design another one. Hold on. We're getting an email with new drawings. And he, that client, turned out to be probably one of my highest referring clients in my career. He sent me 14 of his best friends who all hired me instantaneously. The minute he said, you're going to call Evan Goldenberg and he's going to do the project for you. And that was it. They called me and I would basically say to them, what day would you like me?
Because all of a sudden your schedule is full, so you got to organize them a little bit, right?
All over the place. So, and I got in my car and I drove, and I used to do about between 15 and 18,000 miles a year on my car. Not so much anywhere now, probably only about 10. So
Okay,
my cars last a little bit longer than they used to.
for sure. Because you do projects all over the U.S.
I do. We have a project in Philadelphia going. We're just probably about a month away from the finished. There's a stainless steel display wine displays that are in fabrication right now. They're going to have a black acid and hand rubbed beeswax finish.
Sounds
They're going to be beautiful, and they go against backlit, wood mahogany cabinet work, and it's fun stuff. I go where my clients want me to go, and I direct people that have never done wine cellars before. It's interesting.
yeah.
They're not all in the basement, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure you have a wide variety of spaces
And
you
the
can work
most difficult was one up in an attic. That was the hardest one.
in. Ooh, wouldn't that be really hard to control the climate up there?
Yeah, well, there was an attic above the attic, and there was a refrigeration system up there too. So we had a primary and a secondary refrigeration system. In case one failed, we still had a backup.
Okay, wow. Plus access up, like that's like a whole other set of logistic.
Through an access door in the ceiling. It was a royal pain.
Okay.
But it was the only way to make it work, and this is what the architect wanted. So if they give me something crazy, I'll figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, there you go. It's part of the job, right? So I guess a question I always like to ask is there something in particular you find lacking or struggle with, or something that would be helpful in terms of your professional workload or capacity?
Believe it or not, I think I need to rely more on AI to write to write my contracts.
Okay.
But they're pretty much boilerplate. I think once I load a few in, they'll go pretty quick. It's just
Hmm.
one of those things that I just have to keep at it and refine it and clean it up and make sure obviously you have to proofread everything because AI doesn't know what I know. Someday it might. I don't know. It's one of those things. And I've seen what it can do in terms of design change, but I don't think it realizes the passion people have for wine collecting. That's something that AI can't reproduce. And I'm a passionate wine collector. So, and I know, so my clients realize that I'm a nut just like them and I buy wine almost every day, and I go to crazy. I went to a dinner last night. There were 8 of us at dinner and we ended up drinking 13 bottles of wine.
Wow.
So
Did you select all the bottles?
no, they were selected by the group. All the members had to choose. They were given a range of Bordeaux. I think it was 1998 to 2005, and you
Hmm.
had to bring one bottle, so that you could see what it is, and you had to bring another bottle, but you had to blind it. You had to cover it with foil, and we had to guess what it was.
Ooh, that's fun.
It was fun, and it was a good dinner.
Will you do similar things with clients? Like, like that would be
I
part of
invite
like,
clients to these dinners, but usually what happens is when I go to these dinners, I end up chatting with the members and then they hire me to do projects for them.
naturally, right?
It's one of those things where, it's a legitimate business expense and I actually get work out of it. It's just like, if I went out on the golf course, and ended up with business after playing around a golf with a group of people.
Yeah, totally. Different tactics.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So
we all have a similar passion.
absolutely. So what's kind of your vision for the next 5 or 10 years? What's on the docket for
Well,
you?
for me, I'm going to keep servicing my existing clients
Mhm.
and, like I said, as long as people keep calling, I'm going to keep doing them. I don't really have to stop because I could be anywhere in the world as long as I have my laptop and Wi-Fi. I can design a wine cellar,
That's true.
and I can usually put together a pretty good group of subs and show them how to build it right.
Yeah. And did you do the same? You mentioned that you had a project in Antigua. Did
A long
you?
time ago,
Yeah. Did
it was
you
a
have it?
wine cellar. It was actually a wine cellar in an outbuilding on a property. We designed it and sent all the drawings, and they built it down there. You know, I think maybe they bought a refrigeration system from us. That was about it. The rest of it was a lot of masonry. So a lot of that work was all done, in the field down there. And they didn't want to pay for us to, keep an eye on it and fly us back and forth. So that didn't happen, unfortunately.
Yeah. Did you have to leave like a manual or instructions or something, or how do you
No,
approach?
no, as
No.
long as I gave them good construction documents with enough dimensions, they knew what to do.
Okay.
Masons are, you'd be surprised, as primitive as they are, some of them are pretty smart.
I mean, they're constantly figuring things out. Like it's like everything is a design effort, just in different scales and scopes, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have a mason here that I rely on to do my projects for me, and he's like a brother. All of my subs are like brothers and sisters to me. Kitchen designers that are CKD certified, and everybody, their education and their experience is just goes so deep. I have a plumber who's magnetic and has divining rods and can find water anywhere on a piece of property, which is two copper wires. But if you show him, tell him there's a leak somewhere, he'll walk around and within about 30 minutes, he'll pinpoint that leak within an 18-inch square. Yeah, he's good. He's real good.
Yeah, it's incredible just all the depth of knowledge. I mean, you have 50 different subs, right? So everyone has all this
Yeah, yeah.
specialized knowledge, and then that
Well,
feeds back to
I,
you.
I, you know, I handpicked all these people, and they work the same way I work. They care about the end product like I do. My electrician doesn't leave little cutoffs all over the floor because he
I
knows I
know.
don't like it that way. So carry around a bucket with you and dump them in it. It makes me happy, but when you find, the right people, and it just, the jobs just go, they're seamless. Everybody comes in and out. Everybody cares about the next person's job and where that line's going to go. So it's not going to interfere. Who else needs this, this stud bay? What else is going in here? And, everything gets talked about before it gets done, even if it's not on a drawing. I do a lot without drawings because of how much experience that's the advantage that a design builder brings to the table, more with many years of experience. Not every minute detail has to be on the drawing. In the end, I know what the end product has to look like and how it has to function. And so long before it would ever even be put on a drawing, I'm already pre-roughed for a location for something.
I believe that, right? Like it's like communication of ideas. Like, where does this need to exist? But then within that larger sequencing ecosystem,
Yeah.
right?
I try to make things easier for myself too later on down the road. Like, I want to make sure it's easy to clean a dryer duct in the future. Well, how do
Oh,
you do that? Well, you figure out how to have a clean out in the line so that you can open up a little access door and clean the lint right out of it. Very easy. It's
I feel
all
like
thought out. It's crazy.
I wish there were more Evans in the world because all
Well,
these things matter.
there's a few of us out there.
That's true. It's got to find them.
Yeah. Well, so my clients get, when they hire me, that's what they get. They get
Yeah,
automatic perfection.
much as it can be, right? All those details add up.
And I find things that, were missed, when a house was built. Some of my clients are in houses that were built by, spec builders. And, we pulled the vanity aside because we had to repair something else. And all of a sudden we realized there's no tile underneath. And it's
Totally.
like, no, that's not flying. We'll find some tile to put in there. We'll mash, nobody's going to see it, but we'll grout it in, and the floor is a little more waterproof now.
Yeah. Cut
I'm
cut
one of
tile.
those kind of people that I tile under cabinets, not in front of them. It is a
Oh,
waste of money, I know, but it's a better job.
Yeah. Well, if there's a leak somewhere, it will pay for itself, right?
Yeah, it'll go to the edges of the tile instead of go
Yeah.
through in the middle. Right.
Fine, just a little
I
bit.
don't know.
Well,
I
I
actually have
guess
to rebuild the bathroom in my own house upstairs. We
hey,
didn't
me
we
too.
didn't build it right many, it's 20 something years ago.
Yeah, same. Yeah, it's funny in a house, sometimes the closer you look, the worse it gets. But
Yeah,
it seems
well,
like the spaces you design is the exact opposite because you plan for it.
yeah, well, after so many years of experience now, they're almost like automatic. The way we build them, the details, the blocking that goes into them, and anytime we do a shower for a client or a tub area, automatically blocking and photographs. So then when they get older, we know where the studs are to screw the hand grab bars are.
Yeah, that's so smart. It's like that like archaeological exploration when you don't know a house. I feel like that's another advantage for your clients too, right? And probably why they keep calling you is like you know it, you have all the history, the
Yeah.
documentation.
Yeah. I know more about their houses than they do.
Yeah, that's good. You're trusted. Trust is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And
I guess
and once I touch it, it's, if it wasn't done right the first time after I leave, it's flawless.
and that's critical. That's why you're the guy for the job, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I guess given your extensive experience in designing and building, what advice for our designer and builder community? What advice would you have for others or for a younger version of yourself?
Yeah. The best advice I can give anybody is always, try your best, obviously always, care. If you care more than the next person, it's going to be that much better than the person that came before you, but that's obviously, a self personal pride thing. Some people care more about how they look versus others. Everybody has, takes it to a different level and always be honest. You know, when you do something wrong, admit it. Nobody's perfect. Clients understand. We shoot nails through pipes accidentally and we create leaks, and we fix them. We don't send them a bill for it, but we fix it, we feel bad.
All part of being a person, right?
It's all part of having people work for you. That's really what it is.
For sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Evan, for your insights, sharing your expertise with us. How can the designer and builder community best connect with you?
I think the easiest way to connect with me is to go on to either customwinesellers.com or archartistry.com. I'm still rebuilding cigarhumidors.com right now. I haven't decided what direction I want to take it in yet, but it's a little pet project of mine. But all you have to do is type my name in right there on the internet, and you'll find me. I'm really easy to find.
All right, perfect. All right, well, yeah, definitely connect with Evan depending on whatever needs you might have. And it's been lovely to have you on the show today. So thank you so
My pleasure.
much. Have a great rest of your day, Evan.
Thank you.